Hi. Hey, it's Romania Black. So this is the final episode of 86. I have calmed down since last week. Oh my god. I felt so bad. I enjoyed my discussion because I felt very validating to just get that off my chest. But I thought about it later, and I wanted to clarify. Like 90% of the episode I loved, but the 10% I didn't was a very crucial 10%. Because I'll be honest, before we start this, I'm recording a little bit ahead because of scheduling. But when I figured out, because I've kind of figured out a little, like, once you see the OP, you know that Lena's going to be a Deus Ex Machina. That's going to happen. This series is pretty literal with its symbolism. So anything in the OP, I'm like, no, that's pretty accurate. There's no like subtle like, oh, we don't know, it's ambiguous. No, 86 is pretty deliberate with its symbolism. So I was like, well, she's going to come in and be a Deus Ex Machina. And what I thought was going to happen was that the show was either going to do one of two things. Either they were going to see each other, but neither of them were going to know who they were, which is what it started out being. And I was like, they're not going to figure out that it's each other, and then they're going to get separated or something like that. That's what I thought. And I would have been fine with that. If neither of them knew who they were and then they got separated and we, the audience, are like, ah, man, nah, then that would have been one thing. Or I thought it was going to go another way and split into two possibilities. I thought the other way it was going to go is that Lena was going to see Sheen, and that's what it kind of seemed like it was going to be when the hatch was raising up. I'm like, okay, they're going to see each other, and then the Confederacy is going to show up and everybody else, and then they're going to get ushered away together, but it's going to be chaos, and then they're going to get back to the base, and either one of two things were going to happen. Either Lena was going to stay and help them face Legion and track them down. And there was going to be this really cool political like thing of like, okay, we have this person from San Magnolia who's representative. Her dad's kind of infamous. Her uncle's infamous. What is she going to do? Is she going to talk with the president? Like, how is this going to work? And she's going to have to find a way to integrate herself. And she's going to be the outsider, even more so than the 86 and the Confederacy. And they're going to have to find a way to work together to stop Legion. Or she's going to get there. They're all going to meet. And then the Confederacy is going to be like, you need to go to this place, and the 86 are going to go over here, and they're going to be separated again. But they would have already met face to face, got confirmation, built a little chemistry, did a little character work, and then it was going to be like, oh, damn, now the stakes are, if we want to see each other again and further this relationship, now we have to beat Legion, and it was going to be like another boost forward with that. So there was like 3 different pathways that I'm like, okay, narratively, the show can strongly move into these 3 directions and pave the way for a really compelling jump or lead off so that we get amped for the second season. Or we can let Sheen know that it's her, but he's too in a bad state to let her know it's him, and then we're going to kind of tease you with it, and then she's going to get ushered away, and it's going to be like she came there for no reason. The reason she came there was superfluous, and then we're just going to let him like figure out how to fix himself, and he's going to carve the path for her, even though she is much more mentally stable and badass than he is. But he's a man and he's the protagonist, so we can't let him be second place to a lady. Surely not. I'm going to give this show the benefit of the doubt and go into this final episode, and maybe some of the scenarios that I think are going to happen are maybe for some reason they're just waiting until they wait until this moment and let them happen, and that'd be great. People said in the Discord that there were like nearly 3 months between episodes 21 and 22, and I'm like, man, I'm glad I didn't wait all that time because I was really amped with episode 21. I'm glad I didn't wait. I have to wait 3 months and then watch episode 22 because I'll be honest, I would have been pissed. I would have been like, I waited all this time for this, for you to give me blue balls? Oh, wow. That was great. Great job, show. I'm glad you did that. So there was so much of it last episode that I talked about in the discussion that I loved of episode 22. There was so much, but one of the main storylines that you've built up, and the whole thing, I'll wait till this episode's done, but the whole idea about communication and chemistry and seeing one another and physicality, you have that theme that you've been hammering, and then what do we do with that? But we'll talk about it after this episode. So I am thankful that you all have stuck out this far, especially if you're a fan of this show. I feel bad because this show just hasn't been my cup of tea, and I've been trying to give it the benefit of the doubt, but it's honestly been one of the most challenging shows. It's been the most challenging show on this channel to get through. And I think because I had been led into expectations that were not met by what I'd been seemingly not promised. I'm not saying anybody promised me anything, although some people were very vocal about how amazing this show was. And I was like, ooh, I'm watching Monster, Attack on Titan, Psycho Pass, Berserk. You're giving me very high expectations amongst some really top tier shows that I'm watching and have watched. It's got to meet up if you're going to give me that expectation. And it's not. But I can't say I've been mad. I have been mad at it. I can't say that. I can't say I've hated it, but it's been a very frustrating series to watch. Especially when I kind of expected it to do this thing and then it didn't. But we're gonna wait till this episode's over and then we're gonna talk about it. So thanks for sticking it out this far. We'll see what happens. And maybe, who knows, maybe my aggravations from the last episode, it's got 23 minutes. Maybe it'll turn it around, change my mind. We'll just have to see. So we're going to start episode 23 of 86. And we're going to do that here in 3, 2, 1. And let's go. Oh my God. Thank God. Thank God. Oh my God. Thank God they got to see each other. Oh my God. I was about to give up on this show. I really was. I'm going to be honest with y'all now that we've finished this episode. If she didn't get to see them by the time this episode ended, I would have read the 3 novels, but I would have been a very unhappy person while reading them. And I don't know. I don't know. Maybe some people like this show. This show is very withholding, and it just drags it out so much. We could have had her meet them last episode. We could have done that. This whole, like, they drug it out to the very last second. And I know it's supposed to be endearing, and everybody's going to be like, oh my God, she finally got to see them. I'm like, they were playing it off as a joke. I wouldn't think it was a joke. I'm like, if I cared about these people and they literally have known the whole time, it makes Lena look a fool. It makes her look like an idiot in that scenario. Like, oh, she didn't know it was us. Oh my God. I would have been pissed. I'd been like, you mean to tell me you could have told me last episode, like when we met earlier, that it was you, but you didn't? And you just, because here's the thing, Sheen at the time, he knew that she was going back to Grand Mur, but he didn't know that they were going to end up working together. So for all we know, he was perfectly content with just letting her go and never letting her know that he was there at that time. And I'm like, that's kind of a dick move. But then they held off like it was a joke to the last minute. And I'm like, and for a second, I thought if we were only going to see them meet through Fido's lens from far away, I was like, oh, I was going to have a high-speed come apart. I'm like, don't even dare show. It just was really drug out, and the pacing was kind of like, you could have done this a lot sooner and more effectively. I wasn't a fan of dragging it out to the last second and then making this girl cry after you literally withheld that you were alive all this time. Like, and the show kept doing all these fake outs. I'm like, show, I'm done with you. I'm done with you doing these stupid fake outs over and over and over again. They don't make it better for me. I'm like, ugh. So let's go through this and talk about the differences with everything. I do like, it felt kind of like an OVA at the beginning with the Christmas. It was kind of cute. I did like them all getting gifts, and their gifts are them settling in. Their gifts are just, he's teaching Frederica math, which is fun. But they all get like their gifts, and they're opening like the s'mores. I would have liked to see them roast the s'mores by the fire, but Theo gets a drawing kit. Raiden gets a tool kit. Raiden's just like, oh. I feel like Raiden's like, oh, you want me to fix stuff for you? I like that Raiden's like, what? Okay. I do like that Karina gets a purse, which is cute, and Anju gets the whisk and everything. They all act like, which fitting, they're not used to getting gifts at all. They probably exchanged gifts amongst each other if it was even possible when they were in 86. But seems like this is the first time they received a gift from someone else since they were kids, so they just don't really know how to react to it. And that part's really interesting. I like that Sheen gets cookbooks. He has like, yeah, they're all essential cookbooks, and he just looks so disgruntled. He's like, why do I need these? I'm like, did we establish that Sheen was a good or bad cook? I feel like we've never talked about this. I feel like this has never been a character moment established for him, whether he was a good cook or not. I don't think they've ever talked about that in the series. Maybe that's a novel thing that I'll learn, but I feel like we've had no hint that Sheen likes or is a cook. So that's interesting. But I'm like, good housekeeping. Be a male wife. Go for it, Sheen. Let Lena be the breadwinner in this in this relationship. I'm gonna be honest with you. I don't really ship Sheen and Lena. I feel like Lena could do better. I want to ship like Lena with Raiden, but Raiden seems to maybe would be Anju. I'm like, Sheen is just, ugh. I don't care for him as a main character. He's not my cup of tea. He's just not. I don't know. I find him a bit underwhelming as a main character because he's so one note until literally the last 2 episodes of the series, and then he goes through a life revolution, and I'm like, we could have had that, like slowly built up or changed over time. I'm just not, I feel like Lena's such a better character than him, and she deserves better than this guy that's just not really mentally stable. Why do you need her to fix you? I don't know. And here's the thing, he doesn't need her to fix her, and that's kind of we'll talk about it with his character, but the difference in his character from last episode to this one is so starkly different. It's weird, and we'll talk about it, but I really don't. I think she could do better. I'm like, girl, you could do better than Sheen at this point. I don't know. I wish Ray was still alive. I'd ship you with him. He seemed like he was better. But I'm glad that we get to see Anju and them. Like, we get to see little moments of them, like, happy and back to, like, the normal standard of life. It's kind of cute. We get to see Raiden working on stuff. I like that Frederica and him are... My thing is that it's just a montage, right? That's kind of my thing, is that in this series, because character work is not the central point, it doesn't work a lot with character, that everything is just shown to us. And it's just... It doesn't feel lived in. Like, I've watched other shows where there's these little moments and there's conversations and there's this like moments where you see the characters develop and it's quiet and there's like, I've been watching Monster and Psycho-Pass and Attack on Titan, and now I'm getting into Pluto. And in those series, the character work is so beautiful. And and I hate to compare this to other shows, but it's just, I think that's one of the unfortunate things is that I'm watching 86 the same time I'm watching these amazing, and Frieren and and Berserk. I'm watching these alongside shows that know how to create little character moments and really make you connect with the characters. And here it's just like, here's a montage. We're not going to give you more than 10 seconds of what they're doing, but you connect with them now, right? Right? And I'm like, no, I don't, because you've just shown me 10 seconds of them cooking, but there's no internal monologue. There's no like them connecting with others. There's no conversations. It's just showing me a montage doesn't make me feel more invested in these characters. I need to feel the investment. And there are times where 86 does do that, but it is few and far between. Most of the time it's just shown to us, and it's not really enough to connect. At least for me, I don't feel the connection. I do like that Anju, I guess she's telling Raiden he needs to eat his food, and he's like, I'll do it later. But that's all we get. Like, we don't get any dialogue. We don't get them talking to one another. It's just a scene. It's just 5 seconds. And there's Theo drawing, and it's really cute. But we don't get to, like, have any internal monologue with it, right? And so they talk about, them getting to be a force to go after on the front lines, to go after Legion, right? And then they're all like, well, here's who our handler is. And they're like, oh, we're okay with it. I'm just kind of like, it feels underwhelming because I'm like, the woman that you guys clearly connected with, the woman that Sheen clearly has purpose with, and they're just like, oh, okay, yeah, sure. And it's almost like the show, and I can just see this in the novel. It just being the end of a chapter, and they're all like, yeah, you okay with that? Sure, we're okay with who it is. And it's supposed to build up this suspense and mystery of who the handler is. But because we know the episode's called Handler 1, it's like, yeah, we know who it is. So And when Frederica's like, come on. And Sheen has like no reaction. Sheen is a blank slate. He has the personality of a cardboard box. Like, I'm like, Sheen, you're not going to show, I'm with Frederica. You're not going to show any emotion seeing her. He's like, whatever. I'm like, this woman that's given you purpose again, or maybe not. Who the hell knows at this point? Sheen is so bland. I'm like, ugh. Ichigo Kurosaki has more personality. I can't. Okay, so here's another thing. And I'm sorry, that's very mean to Sheen. God, he's give me some spice. Give me some spice. So then they talk about the Western theater forces sustaining 60% losses. 60% is, I'm no mathematician. I'm an English teacher. 60% is a lot. And that's kind of again, like another qualm that I have with the series a little bit is that they're like, we're trying to replace this lost manpower, but we don't have the training and we're losing our combat forces. And so one of the big arguments is they're like, oh, well, they want to spare the 86 and they feel sorry for them. And they don't want to put them on the front line because of all they've been through the San Magnolian Republic. And I'm like, yeah, but here's the thing. You all have sustained 60% losses. Now is not exactly the time to be pitting the 86. If you have people that have the capability to stop Legion and you're not putting them on the front line, what are you doing? Why are you not doing that? And my thing is, the Jihad Confederacy is not like San Magnolia because they're fighting with them. If you send the 86 in and have the Confederacy there as backup, you are already leaps and bounds ahead of where San Magnolia was. So there is a clear difference between those two armies. So I don't think it's a bad idea to put people willing and able to go to the front lines on the front lines, and you just don't want to do it because of X, Y, and Z. Like, then die, I guess. Then, I'm like, what else do you want to do? It's just, I don't understand that. And I get what it's trying to do thematically, but strategy-wise, it makes all the sense to put them on the front line and then work with them. Okay, and here's the other thing. The manufacturing facilities are unharmed. You know that there are manufacturing facilities. The fact that you know they are unharmed means you know where they are. Why is our mission not to go to the manufacturing facilities and stop the manufacturing facilities? Why is that not the mission? Why are we not going there? Why is it not, hey, 86, we're going to track where the military manufacturing facilities are for Legion, and we're going to go attack them head on, because if the Legion can't make more of themselves, then eventually they will run out of people. They'll run out of robots. How are they manufacturing themselves? Who knows? Doesn't seem like it should be possible, but maybe they have AI and machines. But how can the machines make them? I wish we got this explained. Maybe the novel will explain it, but I wish we'd had explanation of this. That would be nice. But the fact that they just ignore like something that should probably be targeted is, I don't know why that is. I'm like, but why? They're like, they're unharmed and the war is only going to get worse. I'm like, then why aren't you targeting the manufacturing facilities to stop the creation of more Legion? Why? And because, yeah, they say that humanity is going to slowly be worn down because they can keep creating more. It's like a zombie effect. And they're like, well, we'll maintain our defense lines like we've been doing while putting together a mobile unit to bring concentrated firepower on critical Legion areas. Are those critical Legion areas the manufacturing units where more are getting made? I don't know. I don't know. And they're like, I didn't expect you to put together the same plan that we had. And they're like, yeah, a mobile strike force entirely of 86. It doesn't sound like you. I'm like, well, you've lost 60% of your troops. So now is not the time to be pitying the 86. You have 40% of your population left to fight. And they want to do it. I don't know why this is an issue. They flogged the dead horse a bit on this. Okay, so this series tends to repeat the same things over and over again a lot, so I'm going to ignore that. We get Sheen's bio here, that he's a lieutenant. It says, special note concerning his powers. I was like, that's such a cheesy way of putting it. Example of power usage during combat operations. He was first to detect a large Legion offensive and got his squad ready in advance, contributing greatly to the battle. During the Tri-Nation military operation, he was seen using his powers, providing accurate information on enemy numbers. After the mission begins, During the advance, he was able to detect a new Legion force, route prediction based on retreating Morpho, avoiding engagements with the Legion while pursuing Morpho. So they basically know that Sheen is able to detect the Legion, and they're going to use that. I mean, I would use that if I was battling a force that could wipe me out. I don't know. And so, yeah, I'm like, if they still choose the battlefield after Legion is over, then whatever. And then they're like, will the 86 accept this foreign officer, though? The miscommunication among them is really bizarre. And I don't understand it, because at this point, the Federacy knows the 86 were working with San Magnolia. They had a handler. The handler was overseeing operations. I don't understand why it's such a big deal that they don't tell them that they know Lena. I don't know why Sheen didn't tell the president, oh yeah, Lena was our officer. She helped us during our battles with 86. I don't know why that's not a big deal. I don't understand why we can't say that. It felt like the show was just being like, oh, who's it gonna be? Who's the mysterious handler? They seemed okay with it. And I'm like, we know it's Lena. So why weren't they telling about it? Why not? I don't understand what the big deal was with saying her. And he's like, well, I guess we shouldn't have been worried. I'm like, why do they care? At this point, the Republic is gone. She's like one of the last few remaining, it seems, left in the military. So why is this a big deal? That made no sense to me at all. It really didn't. It felt like, and something else that I really don't like is this series we never found out what Anju was saying. We don't ever find out what she's saying. Sheen and them say there are words said, the president says stuff. I feel like we're never going to find that out. And here is a hint. If you're going to give stuff away, who's going to remember 3 seasons from now, like little words mouthed in a moment? You've got to make that tie back a little quicker. I don't know if the novel's going to do that. I don't know how the novel can do that. It's something that was like overused in this series, and I was like, you're not gonna explain what it is. I do like the flower scene. I'm really glad that Marcel shows up. Like, that's one of the best parts of this episode, is Marcel showing up and then rectifying things and settling things. And Sheen does go through, thank God, a little bit of development in this episode. It took us 23 episodes to get here, but we arrived. I honestly ship Sheen with Eugene more than I do him with Lena. He talks more with Eugene's grave than he does with Lena. That's such... Tell me I'm wrong. Tell me I'm wrong. He opens up more to Eugene's corpse at this grave than he opened up to Lena when she was 5 feet in front of him breathing. Apparently, Sheen does not realize what he's done until it is gone, and then he has moments to reflect. And so, yeah, he gives him the flowers and talks about the Western Front being, as it were, where it's hanging in there somehow. And you asked me why I fought. And he's like, I still don't know why I fight. I don't have a reason to fight the way that you did. And I'm kind of like, on the one hand, I was like, I thought last episode you figured out that your reason for fighting was, he does realize it later. And he talks about later with wanting them to see a site that they hadn't seen before. And he gets to there. I'm like, well, isn't that your reason for fighting? He's like, I don't have a reason to fight. I'm like, well, is it to fight for people you care about? Like Lena? No? Okay. He's like, there's one thing I know, and that's I promise to take them all the way to the end. And this is the point. And the battlefield isn't what I want them to see when they get there. And so I do like this moment. This is a really good moment of development for Sheen, for him to realize that I think I want to live longer than just this in battle, and I want them to get to the end beyond the battlefield too. He's like, I don't really have any ambitions, but I know that they do, and I want them to have a good life. I'm like, good. I'm glad Sheen has made it that far to realize he wants to help see them beyond the battlefield. Great. Good. We've met the bare minimum. And then he sees Nina's letter and all of that, and he's like, I don't really care to see the sea, but I kind of want, he's like, I don't care to see it myself, but I want to show it to the others. I want the others to have the opportunity to see it too. And if I can show them something they've never seen before, then that'll be enough reason to fight for now. And I'm like, good. Okay, so Sheen's reason for fighting is to do it for those around him. How that wasn't what it's been the whole time, I'm glad he's come to these conclusions. I'm glad Sheen has come to these conclusions. Good. And I honestly, I like the conversation with Marcel. I like he says he's going to come back and he's like, I'll tell you something that you've never seen before. And I like him and Marcel having this conversation, Marcel opening up and Sheen saying that he's sorry and Marcel saying he's sorry. I like that they both kind of come to terms in their own way. And that's great. And look, I know that a lot of people may complain that I'm giving Sheen a hard time because he's an introvert, he's quiet, and people can relate to him. Great. Good. I'm kind of an introvert too, but I am way more communicative than Sheen. And my major is in communications. One of them is. So for me, communication is so essential. And for me, it's very frustrating when somebody like Sheen, who I'm like, you have this opportunity to communicate. Why are we not doing that? But my thing is too, again, watching other series like March Comes In with a Lion. I just started that series. The main character of that series is very non-communicative and very reserved and introverted. But the show finds ways of making us see internally what's going on with them that you relate to their character more. This show needed more internal monologues with Sheen. It just did. There was not enough internal work. So you just watch Sheen be this cardboard box half the time and you're like, what's going on? And then we do hear him open up and you're like, oh, great, cool, more of that, please. I just wanted more of that from the show. And and I do like the scene where he apologizes Marcel, and the scene in the snow there is really good. I like it. And he says, I need to apologize to you and to her. My thing was, he says he needs to apologize to Nina, and then he walks past her. He walks past her. She literally walks by him with the flowers. He doesn't stop and talk to her, doesn't let her know it's him. I'm like, it's just like, there should be some accountability there. Sheen's like, oh, I'm going to take accountability and responsibility and apologize to her. But actually, I'm just going to leave a photo and let her figure it out. And I'm just going to walk away like a cool person. And I'm like, but how is that being accountable? You need to go back and talk to her. Like, using interpersonal communication, bitch. What is this? It makes my shoulders tense. I'm like, Sheen he has to be the cool character, but he does it wrong. I don't know. I'm just like, I wanted him to talk to her because she's literally right freaking there. I'm like, dude, why can't you? What's going on? And maybe in the novel he doesn't walk by her, but I'm like, if that's the case, animation studio, you made a bad mistake if you had them walk next to each other when that doesn't happen in the novel. No. Oh my God. And yeah, of course they finally bring back the picture. It finally comes full circle. It just took us 7 episodes, which it's fine. And then he smiles there in that. Sheen looks so bland in that photo. It's hilarious. And then she's like, thanks. And he's just too cool for school. Sheen just walking away. The personal mark also was another thing where they like do the markings on the raisin leaves. I kind of understand why he kept the Grim Reaper, because for the Legion, he wants to be the Grim Reaper to the Legions, and he has like the blue instead of the red. I kind of like that. I almost wanted him to become a Skull Knight, because that would have been kind of like a sign of evolution, maybe, and of him changing. But I'm totally okay with him deciding to keep the same mark that he had before. That's fine. I think that's okay. I'm okay with that. It's cool. It works. And then they draw it on there. I like that Theo's the one that gets to draw it. So yeah, so then they go back to Fido and the others, and he leaves the box there and leaves Ray. And I thought this was a really good scene where he's like, it's hard to envision a future without my brother. And then he says, I don't have anything I wish for, anything I'm seeking. And I'm like, but didn't last episode you said that you were seeking to carve some kind of path for Lena to follow to get to you? What happened with that? You said that literally an episode ago, and now you don't remember? You still don't think you have anything to live for? And he says, I still don't know what I'm living for. And I'm like, how many times are we going to repeat this? Can't you? I thought you found that last episode, which I'm glad maybe he's not living. I'm glad maybe he's not relying on her, which is good. But at the same time, again, that is the fact that he still doesn't know what he's living for. He still doesn't know what he's doing. His character has not developed at all. I mean, the most he said is, I guess I want my friends to live beyond the battlefield. That's it. That's it. That's all he's found. And I was like, Sheen, come on. Nothing else? Not a thing? I do love the paint on the werewolf and everything. And then he makes the Undertaker and he's like, I'm going to paint it, okay? And then Sheen says something, but we don't know what it is. And everybody's like, "Aw," but we don't know what it is. And what does he say there? Who said, I'm the one they want by their side? So I said, I think, oh, okay. And yeah, and then he thanks his brother and the Legion, the Undertaker. Yeah, the Undertaker for the Legion. I like it. Cool. Because with the Legion keeping this world closed off, I can't make it happen. I have to do it for their sake and for hers. I'm like, okay, cool. I'm glad we get to see Lena back there and we get to see like everything that's happened, and the Republic is this like wartime state and it's all like just completely gone to hell. And a lot of people died, as we find out. A lot of people have died, and a lot of 86 and comrades. Honestly, I kind of wish that we'd spent more time this season on her end of it. I know that we couldn't because she had to be the Deus Ex Machina and the surprise to save them. But I honestly wish we'd spent more time with Lena. I find her side over here much more captivating than the stuff with the Confederacy was just, they're in a mess hall. They're talking. Maybe they're talking. And here's the thing. We didn't have nearly enough focus on Richard or Mantis Man, or even Winsel we had the most development with, and I really like her character. But Mantis Man and Richard we have like no development with. We know nothing about them. Not a thing. And we don't ever really get to see them interact with the 86 enough to like leave an impact. So rather than waste time over there, I wish we'd gone back here and seen more with Annette, seen more with Lena, seen more with like what was the aftermath after the Legion came through, what we needed to see more of like what happened with the camp development with the Confederacy coming in, like when they showed up, what was that like? We don't get to see any of that. And so it's kind of frustrating because I would have loved to have seen more with that side of things in the week, but we don't get to see it. And it's just like, okay, the sign where they sprayed it away, 86 stay away, and put white pig stay away. I think they just made that whole 86 stay away sign. They just set that whole gag up so that the punchline could be them spraying it away, and it's now a reversal, and it's the white pig stay away. That's all that sign was there for. It was just to make the punchline hit in the last episode. And I'm like, oh, cool. Oh man, got me. You got me. You hit me hard with that one. I was like, oof, buddy. And then yeah, and of course they've dismantled the statue, and they've like said goodbye, so long. I don't know. The vandalism is pretty realistic, I guess. We see Cyclops and her team. We don't get to know who they are. Who are they? They seem interesting. Wish we could know them. Don't have time. And then we see like all the supports, and then the ones that are left. And then of course, I don't know. It's a little cheesy, the whole mess hall thing where he's like, he got more than I did. And they're like, can't you coloreds treat us equally? And I was like, yeesh. Hitting the nose on the head, aren't we? Yikes. I don't know. It's just the Jihad Confederacy and them and the animosity. It's really on the nose. It's really on the nose. And you could have like done it with a glance and made it like a nonverbal thing. But it's just kind of like, again, I don't want to say it's preachy, but, and I'm going to read the novel to see if this is true. And I'm going to say a statement, and I know I'm going to offend people, and I'm sorry, but you shouldn't be offended. I don't feel you should be offended, but sometimes I've had a lot of people in the fandom have these amazing headcanons and these amazing breakdowns and these amazing analyses. There's been in the Discord channel some really cool symbolic thematic like interpretations and breakdowns of scenes that I thought were really, really cool. And I've really thought they were really expressed awesome. I was like, oh, that's neat. That's cool. I don't mean to offend people that really like this show, but sometimes I think that the fandom is smarter than the show. There, I said it. Sometimes I think the fandom and the people watching the show are maybe smarter than the show itself. And I don't know what to make of that, but there's some stuff on here that seems kind of basic. Like, yeah, oh no, the shoe's on the other foot now, and now the Albans are gonna have to feel what prejudice is. Oh no, yeah, of course it was gonna happen. And yeah, the stuff that's happening you can kind of see coming from a mile away. And I don't know. I'm not saying the show isn't smart, but it just sometimes feels a little underwhelming, and I expected like it to be a little bit more clever in the way that it does things. And I was like, yeah, of course. And sometimes I think the people watching the show are smarter than the show. And I hate to say that, but that's just my impression from it. It's not a show that leaves me going, oh man, this is so like, I need to think about this for a long time and it's so deep. I'm just like, no, there it is. Yeah. That's kind of like the view I get from it. Sorry. And then, of course, they do the big X through the Alban children playing with the polar bear. Oh my God. And then we go back to that stupid uncle. I hate that uncle where he's like, there's no punishment for a citizenry that's not aware of its crimes. I'm like, but show, you need to make up its mind. Is the people aware or are they not aware? You know, because the whole 86 stay away makes it seem like they are aware of their crimes, but then they're like, oh, they didn't know how. I'm like, you got to give me more, show. You've got to give me more. And no, your uncle is not right, Lena. Do not let him try to tell you otherwise. He's an asshole. Don't. Also, speaking of assholes, this one guy that like the one guy that assigns her in front of the Confederacy guys to become the handler, like, what a piece of work. He had like the photos of him with the people from the 86 and the Confederacies. Like, you know, it's like those, I don't know. What it makes me think of is, I don't know. I'm all for humanitarian efforts and things like that. But sometimes it's like I see people that go on like a mission trip and they take photos with like people from other countries, and these people are like living in poverty, and you went to their country and built them a house and then you left, but you took a photo with them like it was a photo op. Like you want to look like a great person because you took a photo with them, and that suddenly makes you an amazing individual. And I'm like, yikes. And so that's usually like a red flag for me. I'm like, oh, I don't know how to feel about that. I mean, there's clearly like, I had a cousin that worked for Greenpeace for a year in South Africa and like went to countries that were in dire need, and she lived there for like years with them and like help them. That's different. Like if you stay there and you embed yourself in the community and you do community work that helps them to become better, and like you pour your heart and soul into it, yeah, sure, you take a photo with people that you've grown bonds with, sure. But in this guy's case, he seems like he took a day trip to 86 district, took a photo op, and then left and pieced out, and now makes himself look like he's a good person. And it's so transparent. Like the Confederacy sees through it, Lena sees through it, the cat sees through it. It's just, it reminded me of that. So I was like, oh man, he's like the worst. I'm like, ooh. So yeah. And you can kind of tell, you know, and even as a photo with like this woman and their kid to make it look like he's this saintly man. I'm like, hell no, he's not. Ugh. And she's like, nope, we're good. And so then I'm glad, I like the scene with Annette. I like the scene with Annette and Lena and them bonding, and Annette being like, yeah, let's go. My thing was, I like Annette and her like showing them going like through where the 86 had gone before they met with the Confederacy. But her looking at the tech, she's like, the parade device that the Confederacy made, it has the same tech as our Republic. And she's like, there's no chance. It's got our tech. That means they talked to somebody from the 86. And I'm like, yeah. And if I had been Lena, I would have been like, oh, well, but could it have been Sheen that I was with? Now, granted, to give her benefit of the doubt, she may not have known that the person she was talking back there was from 86. She just thought it was somebody from the Confederacy. But that does give her the hope that she's like, oh, that means it could be somebody from the 86 that I'm getting paired up with. And so I'm like, yeah. And so Annette says that she's going with her. And I do like, as Lena walks by, she like is saying her uncle's being very pessimistic, because she does see people that are there. She does see people there still like making an effort to move forward in a positive way despite everything that's happened. Okay, so then she meets with Mantis Man, and it just happens. I'm like, we don't get his name, we don't get any formalities. It just instantly shows her with him, and she's looking down at this roster. What was she looking at? And he's like, I'm sorry, we're still putting things together. As he hands her things. What does he hand her? And it says, Independent Mobile Strike Package Personal Roster. Okay, so it says unit roster. There are all these. Why are these names blacked out? And it says the 86th Independent Mobile Strike Passage, 86, womp, womp, womp. But why is numbers 1 through 5, it says Shiden Ida, Shayna Aya, Rito Oria, Reki. And she's like, but this. And he's like, it's not that we don't respect your talents, Colonel. You and the 86 survived the Legion offensive. We're glad to have an officer like you. So, why couldn't she see the names of all the individuals? I don't understand. I don't get that at all. Why couldn't she see their names? Why were they blacked out? Was she mad because she was moved away from Cyclops and them? And like, all we do is, we don't get that. This is what I'm talking about with character work. She's just suddenly in a room with Mantis Man. There is like, she's there. That scene literally took 30 seconds. There was no character work. There was no like, who is this guy? He doesn't introduce himself. He doesn't explain anything. It's just, hi, we're here. Let's go. And that's it. Oh, what? And that's it. And then like, it was really frustrating me that she ends up, they're like, welcome the true, the Republic of San Magnolia. And then I was getting so frustrated because I was like, she was meeting a bloody Regina. She was meeting everybody. And the thing about it is, it would have been one thing. This is why I wish it would have been that they didn't know each other, because the show is just being a cock tease for the whole episode, because it's like everybody knows that it's Lena and they're working with her, except Lena doesn't know any of them. It would have been better if none of them knew that it was Lena, and then they all met there at once together and could have been like, and both sides could have been surprised to see one another, and it would have been this genuine, beautiful, heartfelt moment. Instead, they played it off like a joke. They played it off like a joke against Lena, and this heartfelt moment was suddenly like, it's just supposed to be funny? Which I guess last episode I did say, you know, it would have been hilarious if she showed up and they didn't know. But now that I see it in practice, I changed my mind. I was wrong about that. I take it back. That it did not go as planned. And she finally, you know, and then you think she can see the memorial, but she doesn't see their names. So I've been like putting two and two together, being like, okay, I know their names. They're not on here. Here's Fido and all of their different machines, and here's the name tags and everything. So I'm not going to forget you. I'm like, girl, how'd you not figure out that it wasn't them? That they weren't your team? And she's like, oh, I'll keep going till I find you. Well, thank goodness they show them together. Thank goodness. So we do get some moments here with Fido. I am excited to read the novel, if only to find out what the hell Fido is, because we get teased so much. All of these memories Fido has. The best one of the montage is Theo's drawings, where he shows her riding the pig, and then it shows her at the end with like her holding Sheen's head as he has a nosebleed. That's hilarious. I do love that a lot. That's really, really good. And of course, Karina's in denial that Sheen and Lena will be together. And I'm like, girl, I don't know. I almost am rooting for you and Sheen at this point. And then everybody's like, it's the perfect boy meets girl. I'm like, yeah, except she's way too good for him. She's way too good for Sheen. No. Get her somebody better, please. I do love, oh my God, Mantis Man going beep, beep, boop, boop is the freaking hilarious thing. If he actually is related to the Nosins and can talk to them, that'll be even better. And then, of course, Frederica, it's like a little crane game. Okay, then we see Sheen being like, what is it, Bloody Regina? And as Sheen looks back, they're like, yuck. And he says, will she recognize us? Is that how it looks to you? Okay, there is a moment here where Sheen looks back, and as he's turning away, we see, yeah, it's literally Fido watching Sheen as a baby go towards the dad. The dad looks exactly like I'm gonna get a picture of that. The dad looks exactly like Sheen. The mom looks exactly like Ray. And that's it. Yeah. I'm like, what is Fido? Why has he ended up with Sheen? What is going on? And then as they show her about to meet them, it was so far away. I was like, if that is how she meets them, I was going to be so pissed. And then she ends up meeting him. But it's so underwhelming. I don't know. I don't know. I'm supposed to be really moved at this point, but by now I'm so ticked off by this show that the good feelings I should have of her being so emotional, I'm just like, I'm glad. I'm glad they met. I'm glad that, they have this tender moment and he has a little blush in his face. It's great. And he suddenly is like, I'll protect you. And I'm like, here's my thing. Sheen goes like, I'll protect you, Lena. And I'd be like, bitch, you don't got your shit together. Lena's the one that should be protecting you. What? I hate that the show wants to suddenly make Sheen this super badass, super cool main character. I'm like, last episode, he did not have his shit together. And now he's supposed to be defending her. Gag me with a spoon. I'm like, it's that stereotypical, like, as a female viewer, it's so frustrating because suddenly it's like, oh no, pretty girl, you're just a pretty girl. You can't be the one that's in charge of this whole thing. You can't be the one that we have to protect our masculinity. He has to be the one to protect you. I'm like, that's such bullshit. I'm like, Sheen is like an emotional basket case that has nothing together. If anything, she needs to be the one protecting him and he needs to get like on a higher level to get up to her. I'm like, that's just so shonen, and it's just like, so cliche in a bad way. I don't know. I would have liked it if she protected him. He got cookbooks. And then Raiden and Theo and all that, that's really sweet. And then Anju and Karina, yeah. And then, of course, Frederick is like, let's take a picture. But it's at the very end, like in the last 30 seconds. Uh-huh. Yep, and they all have their little pictures themselves. That's cute. That's really cute. And she's like, I'll fight with you. And he's just like, sure. He doesn't even respond to it. He doesn't even give a verbal response. He's just like, and then their hands go to like slowly touch and they make the 86. Womp womp. Ugh. Well, that ended better than I thought it would. I'm glad the show let them finally see one another. Thank God. Thank goodness. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I'm gonna read the novel. We are gonna start a new show next week. I'm not gonna read 3 novels in 1 week. There's just no way with my schedule that I can do that. I am gonna read the 3 novels, and then I'm gonna do a video and get back to you all on the channel. It'll be a review. I'll try to be speedy with it, but I want time to read through the 3 novels. So I'm gonna be gone next week for like an entire week. I won't be able to record. So I'm gonna make it a priority to read the novels while I'm gone on my trip and try to do that. That's my goal. And then to see where we are from there. But I don't know. My fear with this series, based on this last episode, when I came into the series, I really had the expectation that Lena and Sheen were going to be on equal footing, and they were going to be equals, like fighting alongside each other. Like she says, I'll fight with you. And he doesn't say, sure, I'll fight with you too. He just goes, mm-hmm. I'm like, I came into the series with the expectation that the two of them would be fighting side by side on equal playing fields, and that was going to be the situation. But as the series has gone on and it's become more focused on Sheen than Lena, I'm slowly getting the idea that the series is going to focus more on Sheen. And to me, Sheen is not compelling. He's just not compelling enough character for me to be like, I want to read all about you. There's just not enough layers for him for me to be invested. With Lena, I am invested, but if she's going to suddenly become this damsel in distress that he has to protect and that she can't stand on her own 2 feet beside him, I don't want to read that show. No, I don't want to read that series. That sounds awful. So hopefully that's not the case. But if it is the case, I'm going to be like, I don't want this to be the whole I'm the man has to save the lady and be in charge. I want them to fight together and be equals. Come on. And I came into the series with that expectation. So we'll see. I'll read the novels 1 through 3 and see what we get. And if I feel like the novels are a lot more compelling, then I'll check back in with y'all. But I made it through the series. I nearly quit this series 3 times. This was the hardest series on my channel I've ever had to get through. It's just maybe not my cup of tea. But, and I don't mean this to shame anybody that likes the show. If you love these episodes and you liked this, that's awesome. I'm glad you do. And that's not, I'm not saying that anybody is above the show or anything. I do think that you all are smarter than the show, though, just so you know. I think you're smarter than the show. You're not giving yourselves enough credit. But that's just my personal opinion. But I do appreciate what this show has to offer in a lot of ways. I do like Lena a lot as a character. I wish we'd had more of her. I'm hoping the novel gives us more with her. We'll see. So I will check back in and let you guys know how the novels go. But I hope you all enjoyed this reaction and discussion. I feel so bad saying that because I bitched the whole time. But so I'm sorry. I'm very aware that I was a bit hateful through these last couple episodes. They were a lot for me to work through, but I did it. I'm a completionist. I'm not going to give up the series. I'm going to work through it. There is good in this show. Don't get me wrong. There is good, and there is stuff I've really enjoyed about it. Am I shipping Lena and Sheen? And so maybe that's my biggest qualm with it, is that, girl, you can do better. You might want to go for Raiden. He's hotter and more stable. And he's a handyman. Guy can make you things. Girl, Lena, I don't think Lena can cook very well. And maybe that's why Sheen is getting a cookbook so he can make her food. But, I mean, Raiden can build things, so get you some. In any case, I'll let you guys know how the novels go here as soon as I can. In the meantime, I hope you all have a wonderful week. Please stay safe, take care, and I will be back as soon as I can with a review of novels 1 through 3, the light novels of 86. Bye!